Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and добрый день. Allow me to extend my warmest greetings from Indonesia. I hope that all of you are well amid this COVID-19 pandemic. Today, I want to introduce a concept of renewable energy development in Indonesia involving communities in the production of renewable energy originating from biomass source. For all of you who do not know about Indonesia, Indonesia is a big archipelagic country, or the biggest archipelagic state in the world, with more than 70,000 islands. The coastline is more than 100,000 kilometers. The population is more than 270 million, and flying from one point to the other point will take you about 8 hours. Indonesia, as other countries, have already made its commitment for net zero emissions by 2060. And my president has already made this clear in several international forums, starting from the previous COPs and also again in G20 Rome and also in Glasgow COP26 this year, that we, Indonesia, will commit ourselves to achieve net zero emissions, whereby with our own sources we can achieve up to 29% by 2030, and we can achieve up to 41% with the involvement or cooperation with international partners. And for example, we already know that in Rome, all of our leaders already made the statement to accelerate the transition towards clean and sustainable energy and sustainable mobility for all. In Indonesia, the current energy condition is that the consumption is higher than the production. And our primary energy mix still dominated by fossil energy. From this slide you can see that coal is about 38% and oil is about 31%, so altogether is about 39%. While we have an abundant potential of new and renewable energy, but the utilization is still low. For example, for solar power, we have a potential of 400,000 megawatts, but the utilization is just 182 megawatts, still too low. Hydropower, we have a potential of 90,000 megawatts, but also again, the utilization is still less than 10%. Bioenergy is the same. We have a potential of 45,000, but the utilization is still low. And wind power, we have a potential of 60,000, but again, the utilization is still low. The same happens to geothermal. And even in ocean or tidal power, we have a capacity of 18,000 megawatts, but the utilization is still zero. And for the nuclear power, we have a potential of 11,000, but again, the utilization is still low. We already have a roadmap according to our commitment toward net zero emissions by 2060, and from 2021 we already made a statement that from 2021 by 2025 can reduce our net zero emissions by, in 2021, we will generate 20% of new and renewable energy, and this will be dominated by solar power. And from 2026 up to 2030s, we will stop importing LPGs, and we will also start to produce 42% of our new and renewable energy, and mostly dominated by solar power. And in 2031 up to 2035, we will enter into first stage steam power plant retirement. And in 2035, the production of our new renewable energy will achieve 57% and still dominated by solar power plant, hydro and geothermal energy. And the energy production will be around 2,085 kilowatt hours. And starting 36 up to 2040s, we will enter into second stage of steam power plant retirement. And in 2040s, the production of our renewable energy will be 71% dominated by solar power. And we stop selling conventional cars. And in 2041 up to 2050, we will start with the first nuclear power plant, but the plan will be about 2045. And the total production of our renewable energy by 2050 will be around 87% and will be dominated biomass and solar power. And we will stop selling conventional cars. And in 2051 to 2060, we will enter into the last retirement of gas steam power plants. And in 2055, will be the last retirement of steam power plants. And in 2060, we will reach our commitment of new and renewable energy 100% and dominated by solar power and hydropower. From this slide, you can see the roadmap for our coal plant retirement to be replaced by new and renewable energy power plants. So the program will start in 2030s up to 2050s. The government, of course, have some plans for new and renewable energy development. So Indonesia aims to add 38 gigawatts of new and renewable energy installed capacity by 2035. Solar energy is prioritized due to its relatively low cost and short installation duration. And we also have some plans for acceleration of new and renewable energy installations. So the primary focus will be energy substitution by utilizing the existing technology of biofuel, B30, B51, co-firing, and RDF utilization. And there will be also fossil fuel conversion. So we will convert diesel power plant or coal power plant into new and renewable energy power plants, biogas, and pellet for cooking. And we will, of course, increase our new and renewable energy capacity to meet the new demand focus on the development of solar power plants. And we also have the plan for utilization of non-electric new and renewable energy or non-biofuel, such as briquettes and drying of biogas, agricultural products. We have some renewable energy developments in place. For example, first is fossil energy conversion. So we have a program of retiring our diesel power plants of a capacity of 2 gigawatts, converting from diesel to new and renewable energies. And the conversion can be substituted biodiesel, B30 and B50s. Can be also replaced by co-firing systems and also maybe RDF utilization. Also, we can increase the new and renewable energy capacity, focus on solar power. We have a target of 3.61 gigawatts. These can reduce up to 41.58 million tons of carbon. And we have a large scale of solar power plant development program targeting at producing energy of 4.68 gigawatts in several areas in Indonesia, in Java, Sumatra, Kalimantan, Sulawesi and other parts, and these can reduce emissions up to 60.97 million tons of carbon. And we also have potentials of floating solar power programs with a target of 26.65 gigawatts in 270 locations spread throughout Java, Sumatra, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and Maluku. We also have plans for utilization of non-electricity or non-biofuels such as biogas, bio-CNG, electric vehicle, energy efficiency. And for example, for electric vehicle, starting 2022, we will produce more than 200,000 electric cars. And for batteries, use in motorcycles has already been started in Indonesia. We have 5 brands that uses a battery as their source of energy. We also have plans for roof power development programs. The purpose is to involve and to demand the participation of communities in the utilization of solar power. These can provide a market for growth in domestic solar power industry. The target is about 2.157. These can be originated from government buildings, state-owned companies buildings, social group buildings, industrial and business buildings, households, and etc. And if we introduce this rooftop power plant program, it can reduce up to 3.2 million tons of carbon. And for large scale of solar power plant development program, between 2035, we have a target of 10.7 gigawatts. And for example, in one island called Sumba in West Timor, we have a target of 2 gigawatts installation. In West Kalimantan, we have a plan of combination with electricity imports from Sabah from about 0.5 to 1 gigawatts. And in former tin mining areas in Bangka Belitung and floating power plants in Singkarak, these have a potential between 0.5 to 1 gigawatt. And also we have plans to build solar power in former mining areas and unproductive lands or reservoirs utilization. And for example, for solar power on reservoirs or lakes, we have a Cirata floating solar power plant that has production capacity of 145 megawatts. And this will become the largest floating solar power plant in ASEAN. And the potential of the development of solar power floating in or on reservoirs or lakes in several parts of Indonesia. We have, for example, in Sumatra, the potential is 7,100 megawatts in 3 locations. In Kalimantan, we have 26.7 megawatts in one location. In Sulawesi, the potential is about 2.919 megawatts in 6 locations. In Java, Bali, and Madura, we have 1,919 megawatts in 13 locations. And in other locations, we have the potential of 39.4 megawatts in 5 locations. And for hydropower, we have a potential in Kalimantan in order to support the green industry in that area. So for example, in Kayan River, we have a production capacity of 9,000 megawatts. In Mentarang River, we have a capacity of 3,430 megawatts. In Serbakun River, we have a capacity of 500 megawatts. And in Bahau River, we have a capacity of 1,300 megawatts. Besides existing source of energy, we can also turn waste into energy. So we have introduced government regulations or presidential regulation that tries to invite investment in 12 cities in Indonesia, in Surabaya, Surakarta, Jakarta, Palembang, Tangerang, West Java, South Tangerang, Semarang, Bali, Makassar, North Sulawesi, and Bekasi. And these potential of investments, some are already in production, but some cities are still on the way of bidding. So for international partners who want to participate in this bidding, you are welcome. And for the target of net zero, the market size utility in 2060 is 1.800 terawatt hour. Currently, electricity production is 300 terawatt hour plus the launch of 120 terawatt hour from the 35 gigawatts program. So there is room for 1,380 terawatt hour for additional new and renewable energy generating capacity. And from 2020 onwards, the portion of power plant capacity will be reduced. There is also efforts to retire fossil power plants in 2030s. Nuclear power will be introduced in 2040s, and phase out of all coal-fired power plants in 2056. And for the green investment project, Indonesia has committed in Paris Agreement to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions at 29% with our own resources and 41% with international support in 2030, compared to business as usual as our nationally determined contribution. And the government of Indonesia will also provide tax facilities to promote renewable energy development, support the private sector in investing in the green infrastructure and green bonds issued since 2018. Central governments will also try to involve local governments for the production of new renewable energy. So as the previous slides, I already indicated several regions in Indonesia that is potential for investment for new renewable energy. Now I want to introduce you to the biomass program as a catalyst to drive local economy and land restoration in frontier, remote and disadvantaged regions. This will provide access to reliable and equitable new and renewable energy electricity 24/7 and reduction of local national power company using diesel. And this plan can also restore the critical and marginal lands through reforestation and other difficult dry areas. And this program can also increase family participation through buying and selling of biomass planted on community land, and can also create employment through or provision-owned companies or other private companies in the area. This program will involve several institutions, starting from Ministry of Finance. We have fund under the Ministry of Finance called Climate Fund. This fund can be used to support local communities to plant trees, and we also involve the local provincial-owned bank, and we also involve the Indonesian National Power Company, PLN. We also involve the Ministry of Village and Transmigration. We also involve the local state-owned companies to participate in this program. We also have other ministries, of course, like the Ministry of Interior Affairs and Ministry of Environment will be joining this program as well. So for biomass supply risk study that was done, we have created the scheme, and this scheme is, of course, we have a potential risk of land tenure by certain parties, risk of varied biomass supply, biomass planning financing risk, and risk of storage of biomass supply. And for the biomass credit enhancement, not giving land commission to the private sector, which can cause a dependency on biomass supply to the party, but giving concession to the community, which will conduct the plantation and then will sell to the local state-owned companies. So this is one of the concepts that we try to introduce. And by this slide, you can see how the parties are involved. So Kemenkomarves is my company, my office. So we'll try to coordinate with the Ministry of Village and Transmigration. We involve the Ministry of Mineral Affairs and Natural Resources. We also involve Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Finance, and also local governments. So this is synergy of ministries, agencies, local governments, including the communities. Well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, this is the whole concept that I want to introduce to you today. Thank you very much.